What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, September 26th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:05 Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to update you guys on everything going on in Europe and with Russia, and also some things here in the US. So this past week has been absolutely insane, and I want to share with you guys all the latest headlines from the last 48 hours. So what you're looking at here is some video footage coming out of Grand Central Terminal in New York City last night. And Grand Central Terminal is the largest terminal for trains in the New York City area, and probably one of the largest in the US. And so the electricity was down in Grand Central Terminal for several hours yesterday evening, and I really find it hard to believe that this was just an accident. Okay, I think this was potentially some kind of a cyber attack, so that is very, very concerning. Also, 2 days ago, we had Russian aircraft fly into the Alaskan airspace, and NORAD officially released confirmation of that yesterday. Here we have some pictures. You can see a Russian bomber and a Russian fighter jet, and the US had to deploy several F-16s. They had to deploy 4 F-16s and several E-3 Sentry AWACS planes along with aerial refuelers. And you may remember that we were tracking this live, and people were saying that it was fake news, that nothing was happening, but sure enough, I was right yet again. And yesterday we had more US AWACS planes flying in the Bering Sea. So here you can see a US F-16, a Russian fighter jet, and then in the back a Russian bomber. Okay, so this is very, very concerning. And we have some major breaking news coming out of Europe. European diplomats have privately warned the Kremlin, that's in Russia, that NATO is prepared to shoot down Russian aircraft that violate the airspace of NATO countries. This was reported by Bloomberg sources. So Europe has already given Russia the warning: if you fly your fighter jets into NATO airspace, if you try to do what you did to Estonia again, we're going to shoot down those fighter jets. And this came after Trump said that he wanted NATO countries to shoot down Russian fighter jets. And the Polish embassy in Minsk, that's in Belarus, is calling for Polish citizens to immediately depart Belarus, stating that in the event of a drastic deterioration in the security situation, border closures, or other unforeseen circumstances, evacuation may prove significantly more difficult or even impossible. Okay, so Poland just reopened their border with Belarus, and then they put out this warning. So what I think Poland is trying to do is they reopen their border for economic reasons, but also to allow Polish citizens to easily evacuate from Belarus before Russia and Belarus go to war with Europe, which I think we could be days or even weeks away. And Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky told Axios that if Russia won't end the war, Kremlin officials should make sure they know where the nearest bomb shelter is. Wow. Okay, basically threatening Kremlin officials that Ukraine will target Putin and his closest circle directly, okay, probably with their Flamingo missiles. And Medvedev responded to that and said Russia could use weapons that a bomb shelter won't protect against. Both the Americans and Zelensky need to remember that. Wow. And we had some major breaking news come in yesterday that the U.S. Defense Secretary, or now Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has directed approximately 800 generals, admirals, and senior enlisted advisors from all U.S. military branches to convene at the Quantico Marine Corps base in Virginia next week on October the 1st through the 2nd without revealing the purpose or agenda. The summons affects commanders stationed worldwide, including in conflict zones in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia Pacific, and is described by officials as unprecedented in its scale and secrecy. Okay, so every single general, admiral, commander, senior advisor of the U.S. military has been called to Quantico, Virginia, okay, from every single branch of the military, every commander. I can't remember the last time we did this. Probably the Second World War is the last time we did this. So they wouldn't be doing this for a strike on Venezuela or some small operation. Okay, this is because they're preparing for war with Russia and China, a military superpower. And unidentified drones were observed this past weekend over military sites in northeastern France, close to Belgium, and Hungarian Gripen fighter jets scrambled to intercept 5 Russian fighter jets that flew into Latvia's airspace, a Sukhoi 30, a Sukhoi 35, and 3 MiG-31s. And Romania's National Security Council has just decided to grant mission commanders the authority to shoot down any military aircraft entering Romanian airspace. Wow. Okay, so commanders will be allowed to shoot down invading aircraft in Romania without approval from higher ups. And Warsaw is going to be amending one of their laws. That's Warsaw, Poland. Poland will be amending their laws to give their military the right to destroy Russian targets in Ukrainian airspace without asking for permission from NATO or the European Union. The current regulation from 2022 requires Poland to obtain approval from allies. Okay, so this is if Poland wants to shoot down Russian drones and missiles in Ukrainian airspace, okay, while they're still flying in Ukraine before they reach Poland. And I want to remind you guys that Russia has already said that if NATO countries shoot down Russian missiles or drones over Ukraine, it would be considered an act of war. And the Russian ambassador to France said if NATO shoots down a Russian plane, this will mean the beginning of a military conflict. Okay, meanwhile, Russia's the one that is sending these fighter jets into NATO airspace. I'm sure if we sent one of our fighter jets into Russian airspace, they'd probably shoot it down. And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that NATO and the European Union have declared war on Russia through Ukraine, according to the Russian state media outlet TASS. Wow. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is Alpha Omega Gold Group. This is my new gold partner. If you guys are looking for some gold and silver, check out Alpha Omega Gold Group. Use the link ao.gold/NYP to get a special precious metals investors guide. There's a link in the description down below. And this company is Christian, so they're based off of Christian values and biblical principles. And I'm very proud to partner with them. That's Alpha Omega Gold Group. Use the link in the description below this video. That's ao.gold/NYP. Gold and silver prices are skyrocketing right now, so it's a good time to invest in gold and silver, whether you want to have them for emergencies or as an investment. Now's a great time to get on board and get you some precious metals. And Zelensky said that Trump is considering supplying weapons directly to Ukraine to pressure Putin into negotiating. And a U-2 spy plane arrived in Britain earlier this week along with 2 U.S. stealth bombers. And Denmark activated its national crisis management system following last night's drone incursions by an unknown actor over airports and military bases across the country, with the National Operational Staff, which is headed by the Danish National Police, and consists of representatives from multiple Danish emergency agencies to remain assembled 24/7. Okay, so Denmark is in a state of emergency now because of all these drones that flew over their country, over multiple airports and military bases. And we're hearing now that apparently there was a Russian warship right outside of Denmark that was there right around the same time as all of the drone activity was reported, and it was sitting there with its tracker turned off. The ship was the Alexander Shabalin. It was a Russian warship, okay, with no tracker. And I wanted to just share some video clips of Trump from yesterday. He was really going on a rampage against Russia and Putin. So something has really changed in Trump's mind, and he now basically sees Putin and Russia as a major adversary. So let me play this for you.
Very disappointed in Putin. And he's been fighting hard, he's been fighting long, and they lost millions. They lost like 1 million soldiers. And you know, with all of the heavy bombardment over the last 2 weeks, they've gained almost no land. Think of that. They've gained almost no land. And I'm not going to ever call anybody a paper tiger, but Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives, their lives. And they've gained virtually no land. I think it's time to stop. I really do.
And then here's another clip of Trump talking about Russia.
They have put it all out on the line. Their economy is going to hell. They're bombing the hell out of everything, and they're picking up a very little territory, if any. In fact, they're losing some territory. So I think it's been very bad for the reputation of Russia. This war should have been over. If this were our war, we would have had it over in 1 week.
So strong words there from Trump. He said a lot of stuff yesterday about Russia. And the International Atomic Energy Agency is reporting that a Russian drone was shot down and exploded 2 nights ago, less than 800 meters away from a nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine, the Pivdeno-Ukrainsk nuclear power plant in the Mykolaiv Oblast. Wow. And Germany's defense ministry is reporting that a pair of Russian signals surveillance satellites are actively shadowing 2 Intelsat-operated communications satellites used by the German military and NATO, stating that the action is a fundamental threat against NATO by Russia. Okay, so Russia has all of these spy satellites that are trailing our satellites. Okay, so that is very, very serious. And the Danish defense minister stated that Denmark is considering invoking NATO Article 4 following the recent drone intrusions over airports and air bases in the country. And the German Minister of Defense is calling for caution in cases of violations of airspace of NATO countries by Russia. He said, so far no noticeable aggression has been observed in these incidents. Prudence is not cowardice, but rather responsibility towards one's own country and peace in Europe. So this is the German defense minister basically calling for restraint, going against what Trump said. Trump said that European countries should start shooting down Russian jets when they fly into NATO airspace. And the German defense minister is saying we should be more cautious, okay? And for the first time ever, a Russian nuclear-armed submarine was spotted transiting Japan's La Perouse Strait on Wednesday, according to Japanese officials. And Chinese engineers participated in drone tests at Russian military training grounds. And Turkey is going to be deploying their E-7T AWACS planes to Lithuania. And the Israeli military confirmed yesterday that the Houthis launched a ballistic missile and it was successfully intercepted before reaching Israel. And South Korea fired dozens of warning shots Friday morning at a North Korean-operated commercial vessel that crossed the northern limit line near the island of Pyongyang. The South Korean Navy, which has been monitoring the ship's advance toward the northern limit line, issued warning broadcasts, but the vessel continued its course until it crossed the line, triggering the Navy vessel to fire dozens of warning shots and shells, causing the ship to quickly turn back towards North Korea. Wow, that's just totally insane. And Trump said that he will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. I want you to listen to this.
This week that he would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Is that something that you
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
Wow, he said it's been enough. It's time to stop now. Wow, strong words there. And we had a lot of reconnaissance in the Baltics the last 2 days. This was 2 nights ago. Here you can see a U.S. Air Force reconnaissance plane flying off the coast of Russia's Kaliningrad region and also patrolling around Estonia and Latvia. Then there was a British aerial refueler in northeastern Poland. Last night there was some type of a reconnaissance plane or drone flying along the Polish-Belarus border near the Białowieża forest. Okay, so that's pretty unusual. And then here we have a picture of the Russian fighter jets that flew into Latvia that were intercepted by Hungarian fighter jets. And we have that U.S. nuclear war command and control plane from Ramstein up in the air again this afternoon. It appears to either be heading back to the U.S. or it's setting up another patrol somewhere over here south of Iceland, and it's going to be communicating with our nuclear-armed subs. But this is a very unusual deployment for a nuclear war command and control plane to be based in Germany. Here you can see more reconnaissance over the Baltics. This was in the morning today. You can see a Russian VIP plane was leaving from the city of Pskov in western Russia, right next to Estonia. And in this area of Russia, near the Estonian border, over the last few days, we had a lot of Russian military helicopters hovering the border. There was also a Finnish border guard plane that flew along the border of Estonia and Russia. Here you can see an Italian reconnaissance plane patrolling the Baltics, and then here you can see a U.S. sub-hunter off the coast of Kaliningrad. And then we had a lot of reconnaissance over the Black Sea, which means that there could be some kind of military activity in the Black Sea. Either Ukraine is going to be striking Russia or Russia is going to be striking Ukraine. So we have to keep an eye on the Black Sea region over the next 48 hours. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with live updates and live monitoring. Make sure you follow me on my X account. I'm trying to build that up as a backup to YouTube. And that's at NYPrepper1 on X. And the link is in the description down below. Also, follow me on Patreon. You can get access to all these updates without any advertisements and text summaries of the news headlines. And I probably will be back later on, closer to midnight Eastern time, with a live update. So tune in later on, and I'll put out alerts on my X and Telegram and in my app when I'm going live. So until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life. And it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from MyPatriot Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.